Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. What is it that you are putting off today that you know you ought to be doing? What is that one thing, that one nagging task or truth or change that hovers in the back of your mind like a shadow whispering to you every night before you fall asleep? You know what it is. And if you're honest, you know it's not trivial. It matters. And here's the hard truth: you are not going to improve until you confront it. Not someday, not next month. And so the first step, and this is foundational, is take responsibility today, not tomorrow. Because tomorrow is a lie. It's a fantasy conjured up by a part of you that wants to avoid the suffering of growth. But responsibility is what gives your life substance. It's the weight you carry that gives you strength. Without it, you're not free or aimless. You're drifting. I remember speaking with a young man once who was spiraling. No order. And I asked him a simple question: have you cleaned your room? He laughed at first. Most people do. But then I asked again, and he realized his room was a reflection of his life. He spent 3 hours the next day cleaning it. That evening, he called me. He was crying. I didn't know how much better I'd feel just doing something simple. Something I could control. You start there. Clean your room. Why? Because if you can bring order to your physical space, you signal to yourself that you are capable of creating order in your soul. You begin to believe in your own competence. And from there, the potential expands. But let's be clear, this isn't enough. You can't just sweep the floor and call it a transformation. Eventually, you have to confront the world with truth. You have to speak, and you have to speak truthfully, especially when it's hard. That means no more lies, no more excuses, no more bending yourself into pretzels to avoid uncomfortable conversations or unpleasant realities. Because here's the thing: every lie you tell pushes you further from who you could be. Each time you betray your own sense of what's right, even in the smallest way, you chip away at the foundation of your soul. Eventually, there's nothing solid left. You fall. And then you wonder why everything hurts. Why nothing feels meaningful. So what do? You aim upward, not toward comfort, not toward safety, toward the highest good you can imagine. Picture the best possible version of yourself: strong, articulate, noble, reliable. Now aim at that, because without an aim, you're a broken compass. But with Ayateven, if you miss, you will climb. This is not theoretical. Again and again, people who had no reason to hope predict dropouts, ex-cons, the depressed turning their lives around. Not by magic, not by luck, but by discipline, truth, and vision. And you might say, but life is suffering. And you're right. Of course it is. Life is tragic. People betray you. You get sick. You lose people you love. The darkness is real. But the miracle it is a miracles that you can bear that suffering. And then, and even more than bear it, you can transform it. You can carry your pain, and from that burden, create something meaningful, something noble, something beautiful. That is what redeems the tragedy. That is what gives your suffering purpose. So what do you do now? You stop pretending. You stop waiting. You look at the mess around you and within you and you start to clean it up. One drawer at a time, one truth at a time, one step at a time, because you can improve right now. And when you do, the world improves with you. So go. Begin. Don't wait for the perfect moment. It's not coming. You already know what you need to do. Would you like this formatted as a printable speech or turned into a short video script? Take responsibility today, not tomorrow. Look, let's start with something fundamental. Your life is not someone else's to carry. And the longer you believe it is, the more bitter, resentful, and lost you will become. One of the most dangerous ideas in the modern world is that your problems are the result of external forces, and therefore your salvation is the responsibility of others. That your boss, your parents, your partner, society, or the system, whatever abstraction you've chosen is what's holding you back. It's a comforting idea, sure. And it's seductive, but it's a lie. Responsibility is terrifying, no question. Because the moment you accept that you are responsible for your own life, you no longer have anyone else to blame when it goes wrong, and it will go wrong. There's no escaping that. But there's something sacred in that, Rez. There is nothing more powerful than an individual who decides truly decides to take responsibility for their own existence. That's the foundation of meaning. That's the beginning of transformation. And it can start right now. If you're willing to bear the weight. Oh? Would you like the next section expanded to, or keep going with this one further? Certainly. Here's the expanded second keynote, Clean Your Room. Order precedes, progress crafted in Jordan Peterson's distinct tone. The act is empanians. Equals. Come, or, with layered metaphor, anecdotal evidence, and motivational urgency. Clean your room. Order precedes progress. People scoff when I say this. Clean your room, they say. As if that's not a profound piece of advice. As if it's too trivial to matter. But let me tell you something, that phrase is a doorway. It's the first step toward reclaiming your life. And if you can't see the wisdom in it, it's likely because you're still lost in the illusion that change has to be grandiose to be real. But let's ask something simple. What is your room? It's not just four walls and a bed. It's a representation of your mind, your habits, your past, your current state of being. Every pile of laundry, every dust-covered shelf, every tangled cable is a piece of the chaos you've allowed to fester. It's a visible manifestation of disorder. And when you live in disorder, you internalize it. You look around and you unconsciously say to yourself, this is what I deserve. This is what I am. That's the danger. And the opportunity. There was a young woman I met after a lecture. She told me she was struggling with depression, anxiety, complete lack of motivation. She could barely get out of bed. She felt like her life was out of control. So I asked her a simple question. Is your room in order? She said, no, it's a disaster. And so I gave her an assignment. I told her, go home, clean one corner, make it perfect, make it beautiful. And when that's done, do another and another. Freakily, after later, weeks later, she wrote to me. She had reorganized her entire apartment. She'd started waking up earlier. She applied to university, and here's what she said that struck me. When I cleaned my room, I stopped seeing myself as a helpless person. I saw that I could act, and my action made things better. It was proof that I wasn't broken. I was just idle. That's the point. Order is not a decorative luxury, it's a psychological necessity. When your environment is in chaos, you absorb that chaos. Your brain is constantly scanning your surroundings for information. And if what it sees is disorder, neglect, entropy, it registers that as danger, as instability, it makes you anxious. It makes you depressed. It tells you that nothing is in your control. But when you put things in order, you signal to yourself that you are capable of managing the complexity of your own life. And that's no small thing. In fact, it's everything. People often say, I want to change the world. Okay. But you can't even change your bedroom? That's where it starts. That's where it has to start. Because if you can't master the small domains of your life, you have no business aiming at the larger ones. You don't build a cathedral by imagining it's by you start with a brick. You place it properly. Then another. Then another. Cleaning your room isn't just about cleanliness. It's about discipline. It's about competence. It's about proving to yourself that you can impose structure on chaos. And once you know that, once you've lived that, then you can expand your domain of responsibility. Maybe it's your finances next, or your friendships, or your health. But it all begins with the most immediate thing you can touch, see, fix. Today, and remember, if you won't clean your room because it doesn't matter, then ask yourself honestly, what else are you avoiding because it doesn't matter? That's a dangerous pattern. That's the slippery slope toward decay. So begin. Straighten the papers on your desk. Hang up your clothes. Throw out what is no longer useful. Reassert control. Take a stand, even if it's small, because it won't stay small. Order compounds. It builds. It lifts you. And from there you can go anywhere. Would you like me to continue with the third section as well? Absolutely. Here's the expanded third keynote, Speak the Truth, even if your voice shakes, written in Jordan Peterson's signature style, raw, personal, intellectually grounded, and emotionally urgent. Speak the truth, even if your voice shakes. There is something ancient archetypal about truth. It's older than language, older than culture. It's woven into the very structure of reality itself, and yet somehow, in our modern world, it has become optional. We act as if speaking the truth is merely a virtue, rather than a requirement for sanity. But here's the brutal reality. When you don't speak the truth, you slowly destroy yourself. Not all at once, not dramatically, but incrementally. 1,000 tiny evasions, small distortions, polite lies. C. Cowardly silences. You pretend and you appease and you nod along. And every time you do, a piece of you erodes. You begin to live in a fragmented world where you're split in two. The person you are and the mask you wear. Why do we lie? Why do we stay silent? Because truth is dangerous. It disrupts. It offends. It tears things apart. But listen carefully. It only destroys what is already weak, corrupt, or dead. If your relationship can't survive the truth, then what you have is not a relationship. It's a mutually agreed upon fiction. If your job punishes you for honesty, then you're not employed, you're enslaved. And if you lie to yourself, you aren't living, you're hiding. I remember working with a young man, bright, articulate, full of potential, but every time he spoke, he watched everyone's eyes like a hawk. He wasn't speaking to be understood. He was performing. He was trying to survive social approval. And eventually I asked him, what is it you actually believe? And he didn't know. He had spent so long avoiding disapproval that he no longer had a voice of his own. That's what lying does. It severs your connection to reality. And when you're not tethered to reality, you drift. You don't know what you think, what you want, what you are. You become hollow. And that hollowness attracts all manner of pathologized depression, resentment, anxiety. Because deep down, you know you're out of alignment. You know you're living falsely. Now, I'm not talking about brutal honesty used as a weapon. I'm talking about the quiet, courageous act of saying what you genuinely think, especially when it's uncomfortable. That's hard. It can cost you. You might lose friends. You might face criticism. You might even break things that once seemed stable. But what's the alternative? To live your whole life as a ghost? To never fully show up? To never say, here I am. This is what I see. This is what I believe. If your voice shakes, let it shake. That's no reason to remain silent. Speaking the truth is a practice. It's like lifting weights. You start with what you can handle, and you grow stronger. You become more integrated, more real, and eventually your voice stops shacking, not because the world becomes safer, but because you become braver. When you tell the truth, you align yourself with something beyond your immediate fear, something transcendent. And people recognize that. They respond to it. Because truth, even when it's painful, carries authenticity. And authenticity is magnetic. It's the antidote to chaos. So if you want to change your life, start by telling the truth. Not later. Not when it's convenient. Now, say what you see. Say what you think. Say what you know. And if you're wrong, fine. Then you'll learn, but at least you'll be in the real world, not lost in a prison of deception and avoidance. You don't have to say everything, but you have to say something. You have to begin, because each honest word is a brick in the foundation of a life worth living. Would you like to continue with the fourth keynote next? Certainly. Here's the expanded fourth keynote, aim at the highest good you can conceive, you written in Jordan Peterson's distinctive voice. Yet philosophically weighty, morally charged, and emotionally resonant. Exquisitely persuasive. Aim at the highest good you can conceive. You have to ask yourself something. What are you aiming at? Because you are aiming at something, whether you realize it or not. Your actions, your habits, your routinely all point somewhere. And if you're not consciously choosing the target, then don't be surprised if you end up somewhere you never wanted to be. Human beings are goal-oriented creatures. It's in our biology. Our nervous systems are structured around what we value, what we pursue. That's why despair isn't just sadness, it's the absence of meaningful aim. It's when you've stopped moving towards something worthwhile and started drifting aimlessly through the fog. And so I ask people, what is the highest good you can imagine? Not just a career, not just comfort, not even happiness, because happiness is a byproduct. Not an aim. I mean the highest possible good. The most noble, redemptive, difficult, meaningful aim you can set your sights on. The thing that, if you achieved it, would make the suffering of your life worth it. It's not an easy question. It might take you years to answer, but the process of wrestling with it, that Stravingi's what gives your life depth. And it's voluntary. That's what makes it moral. You don't have to aim up. You could choose resentment. You could choose bitterness. You could choose to crawl into the dark and drag others down with you. People do it all the time, but you don't have to. I remember a student who came to me brilliant but nihilistic. He had read Nietzsche and Dostoevsky and concluded that meaning was arbitrary, that nothing mattered. And I said to him, then act as if it does. Aim as high as you can. Try that. And he looked at me and sighed.